The following is a conversation with Sachi Negandhi. She is a corporate lawyer. She has done her master's in law with specialization in corporate law. She is a humble person who believes in strong familial values. She credits her family, her husband, and her close friend Ashna Dave as the main contributors to her current position in life. She is an explorer of new places and restaurants. Her favorite pastime is hanging out with friends. Apart from that, she has been an encouraging and a kind senior to me who agreed to come on this podcast quite readily. In this conversation, we talk about the dramatic changes a woman goes through in between the years when she decides to marry and is starting a career, her mood court experience on abortion laws, and the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act, also known as the abortion laws in India and other countries. And we are live. Hello, Sachi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. How are you doing, Manan?
I'm doing really great. So this is the second episode with you
Yeah.
that we'll be recording. So Sachi, I have been following you on Instagram
Hmm.
since I would say December 2019, if I'm not wrong.
Okay.
Okay, roughly speaking.
Yeah.
And what I have seen is
Hmm.
the dramatic changes in the life that you went through within a span of 1.5 or 2 years.
Correct.
I don't remember the chronology, what happened when, but can you walk us through the entire events that your life events that took place in the past 1.5 and 2 years?
Yes, sure. Why not? So, yeah, I completed my bachelor in law. I mean, the third year final exams. I had appeared for that exams in 2019 June. And yeah, as those were over, and I was, a bit skeptical that should I move forward with my masters or not. So then I was like, at least, gaining a degree in masters will give me in-depth knowledge about the subject. And I was very keen in doing my masters in corporate law only. And yeah, so I then decided to go with my NMIMS entrance examinations for getting into that college for the masters. And I appeared for that exams in somewhere in July 2019, and fortunately got through the corporate law. After my entrance exam, we also had a personal interview kind of thing there at NMIMS. And yeah, the results came out. Fortunately, I scored good and got into the field of specialization in which I wanted to do. Because there were many people who gave those exams, and you who wanted to do that specialization into one particular subject. But unfortunately, because of the marks or whatever the interview kind of thing, they got into another field of specialization, that is IPR or be it constitution or financial regulations or whatever. So I was lucky enough and yeah to get into that specialization in which I wanted to do my masters. So that was a breakthrough before getting into masters.
That is
And
really a great achievement.
yeah, indeed. Thank you. So, yeah, that was a breakthrough in my life that, studying your master's degree through such a reputed institute, NMIMS. So, yeah, I was really happy and excited to go there and study because they have, very qualified professors there, to teach you because they have really high quality knowledge because they have done their masters and PhD from very good universities. Almost everyone had done it from NLUs, so it was really good. Learning under their supervision.
Tutelage,
So
yeah,
that
right.
was a really great experience doing it from that institute. And yeah, then I started with my masters, got some few friends in that college. It was a really great experience doing it with them because even they came into masters from different fields. every one of them did not belong to, bachelors. They did not come from bachelors of law only. Some of them
Okay.
were CAs, or some of them were CS, and some of them were from pharma or IT sector too. So
So you're
even,
saying that that people who have already hold a CA and CS degree, they
yeah.
don't have to pursue LLB, they can directly pursue LLM.
No, obviously not that, but they had their CA degree as their primary degree.
Right.
Yeah, then they must have done 3 years of law and then got into masters, of course. So
Okay.
that is the primary qualification. If you want to get into masters, you have to do a BLS 5 year course or 3 year course.
Hmm.
But their primary degree and their primary profession was either of a chartered accountant or of company secretary.
Company
So,
secretary.
getting in touch with them as my batchmates and from different sectors gave me a really, really good exposure because they did not belong to
Hmm.
the same field.
Right. Yes, that is surely an added advantage.
Yeah.
So when I started my 3-year law course, okay, I did not have an idea that, I mean, I had a rough idea that I'll meet people from different walks of life, but it crossed my expectations when I saw a few people who are in their 40s and 50s who are coming to
Yes, yes,
3-year course and wanted to pursue another degree.
correct. Yeah, so
Right.
even that is a thing that even in, when I was doing my bachelor's, obviously you also belong to the same college. So
Yes.
even you must have noticed that there were people coming from different sectors getting into bachelor's in law because they wanted to gain a knowledge about that field too.
Right. This is, I don't know if you know this, but this person belongs to my batch. He had
Mhm.
done his IIT, engineering from IIT Kharagpur.
Acha.
Then he went to do his MBA from XLRI, and he
Okay.
was working with a very reputed bank. And now, I mean, he was with us in our law course, but he was yet so humble, and he always had that willingness to learn. Although
Hmm.
with such high qualification, there is a probability that a person can get arrogant, but he was always willing to learn, talking to teachers and even talking to juniors like us, who have started their law immediately after graduation.
Correct, correct. That is a very good, quality which should be there in a person. That however successful you become, it's on you that how you talk to people. That actually
Right.
shows what kind of a person you are.
Right.
So
Yes.
that's a very good thing to hear. That law is such a subject today that people from different sectors also wish to study that.
Yes. There is no doubt
So yeah,
about it.
yes, yes.
So
So
Sachi,
yeah,
along
then.
not only
Mhm.
about you pursuing your law was I was shocked because even while pursuing your masters, if I'm not
Yeah,
wrong, you got engaged and then after a few
yeah.
months you got married also. So
Correct,
I
correct.
was totally that how was you at this age 24 when like just immediately graduated, okay,
Correct.
and that you're able to take on such a huge responsibility. How did you do that?
Yeah, so that was indeed a little difficult to manage. I mean, the time management was a little difficult because as NMIMS provides a 1 year master course. So we had 3 semester altogether in that one particular year, and
Whoa.
your degree was done. And the course was really, really very hectic because I had to submit my research papers for every subject into every semester, and then I had to present my research paper, and then my professors used to take viva. So the entire year was really hectic, and yeah, in July 2019 itself, after I got my admission into NMIMS, I got engaged, and then things started a little bit. There is a change because when you go through that part in your life, so those changes are meant to be.
Yes.
And but yeah, fortunately they went very smooth hand in hand along with my masters. So because there was a great amount of support from my family, parents, my in-laws, my fiance, that I could manage everything, all the preparations of my marriage and all. So they were there with me throughout, so that
Yes.
I could cope up with my masters.
Yes, that your strength, and that's what I want. That is why I wanted to talk about this,
Yeah,
because the see, I don't know you personally. I would say, this is the first time we are talking. All I know, and as much as I know about you, is from Instagram only.
correct.
That your strength that you showed in that, immediately after graduation until you completed your masters or you got married, and until that
Yeah,
phase, that is really admirable. Not
yeah.
many can take on such a huge responsibility at the same time.
Yes, yes, yes. So I have, if there are things, so many things on your plate in your life, right, at that moment. So there are some things which you have to let it go, because you cannot do each and everything in your life at that time. So yeah, while I was doing my masters and while I was already engaged and I was, going through all my preparations for my wedding, which was held in Feb 2020. So I
Hmm.
hardly had 6 7 months, and there were so many things to do that I had to let go. One thing, that I did not take up a job that time.
Okay.
I did not take up a job, nor I joined an internship. So yeah, that was a thing, because while doing job or internship directly after my bachelor's, along with the masters, being
Hmm.
an MIMS 1 year degree, very much hectic. So
Very
that
much
was not
hectic. Yes.
at all possible, because if I would have taken my job or started my career at that point of time, I wouldn't have been able to give my 100% to my master's degree.
Yes.
So yeah,
That is
I did
totally
not.
understandable.
Yeah, so I did not opt for a job immediately, and I focused more on my master's degree, as well as I started preparing for the wedding things and all that.
Yeah.
And I took up a job later on after I completed my master's.
That's really great. So right now, how do you manage your work and life balance? Because see, I as a lawyer, I understand the amount of pressure and the stress one goes through.
Correct. Yeah,
Be
yeah.
it they be practicing in courts, or be it they working in corporate sector. It is intense pressure game. So how do you manage both the things together? I mean, you
Yeah.
thoroughly nailed your masters and your engagement, but now this is another phase where you are working and now you are married. So how did you manage that?
Yeah, yeah. So even this phase in life is, difficult to cope up, because you're not only doing your job, but you are married. So you have a lot of responsibilities of the families too.
Yes.
So, however, when your family, your in-laws are that much supportive,
Hmm.
so it is not that difficult to. So I took my job in, like, January 2021, because of I. However, I had completed my masters a few months back, but as we all know, this pandemic thing, COVID thing, so
Yes.
that had really a very bad impact on our law sector to find new
Hmm.
jobs and all that. So yeah, I was waiting for some time, that as the pandemic gets a little over. That doesn't seem like now also. But yeah, so I waited for a few months, and then I started, applying for jobs, and I started a new job in non-litigation part of law, because I'm more keen towards, making contracts and agreements.
Making contracts.
Yeah,
Yes.
and rather than doing the litigation part. So that was
Yeah,
my,
that's
personal
understandable.
interest. Obviously everyone
Yeah.
has different kind of interest, so that was my personal interest, that I went into non-litigation. So I took up a job recently, a few months back in January 2021, and yeah, it is a little difficult, as we all, being lawyers into law field, we generally get jobs. We end up getting it location wise near Churchgate only.
Yes.
because city civil, high court, and all the courts are situated there. So it is difficult to travel there every day, and along with your family responsibilities. But I am really thankful to my family and my in-laws, that especially my husband, and that they are always very 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 supportive
Supportive,
in
right?
that manner. Yeah, that and they have always given equal importance to my career too.
Sachi, what I've noticed or observed so far in the conversation.
Yeah,
See, we belong to the generation where everyone wants to be independent.
correct.
That is fair on both the parties' part. But
Yes,
what
yes.
a lot of people tend to forget is that independence cannot be achieved without a support.
Correct, correct. Obviously, I totally agree.
And what I have seen so far is that you have constantly appreciated and outspoken, very much outspoken of the fact that you are independent because of the support and the people who are working in the background, be it your parents, be it husband, be it any person who is working in the background to give you the stage of independence.
Yeah, right. So though, so I really feel that my family is my backbone. What I am today.
That's really great to hear.
Yeah.
So, Sachi, a moot court
Ah,
during your
yes.
college days on the abortion laws in India.
Yeah, right, right.
So, what was the competition and how was your preparation, or was the topic already given and that fascinated you, or you took part and in the later stages you got to know that the topic of the moot court is abortion?
Yeah. So yeah, I would like to share many things with respect to that too. So I already was aware about this topic beforehand. That there's a national moot court competition which is being going to be held in, I think, uh, somewhere in March 2019, while
Okay.
I was doing my final year of
Hmm.
3 year course. So yeah, and then before 1.5 month, I came to know about the topic. I think 1.5 month, yeah, not 1 month. So
Hmm.
then it was fascinating, because generally people take part in moods where the topics are either criminal side or civil side, or be it in environmental law kind of aspect.
Yes,
But
yes, yes.
yeah,
Even when I was in my first year, that is 2019 only, when we had the intra-moot, that is within the
yeah.
college, our
Correct.
topic was related to plastic ban that time.
Yeah, yeah. So even environmental law is, that kind of a topic which generally is used while such competitions. But however, this was a little different. This topic, medical termination of pregnancy, which is still not known to people here in India, or they are not still aware of what the laws are with respect to this thing. So that really fascinated me, and then I asked a few of my friends whether they could join me with this moot,
Yes.
because it's a competition of three people, of course,
Three
two
people. Yeah.
speakers, yeah, two mooters and one research. So yeah, fortunately, two of my friends who joined me with this, I would really like to appreciate and thank them also, Rajvi and Hinal, who were my batchmates during that time, and they even gave equal efforts to this moot. And because of our teamwork, our research work, teamwork, we could reach the semifinals, and it was really a very very great experience.
So,
And
did you win the competition or?
no, unfortunately not. We could reach the semifinals but couldn't the finals. But however, reaching semifinals was really a great feeling, because there were almost 40 teams which came across total came across India to that
Whoa,
college.
40 colleges had
Yeah,
come to that competition.
yes, yes, yes. Approximately 40 to 44 colleges had participated for that competition. And yeah, going into the semifinals was also a very difficult task with such a topic, because it is a sensitive and emotional topic too, and not
Yes,
only,
yes.
you cannot look at this topic only with the practical aspect.
Yes, that's definitely, like a lot of, see, I always say this, that a lot of uh, things in the interpersonal life, that is when we are not working as professional, lies in the gray part. Things
Right.
aren't black and white. It is only in
Yeah.
the court where we have to prove that things are black and white, and it we have to, be either very rational or be very emotional, and it takes a toll on anyone's health who is doing this.
Definitely, this is such a topic, and not only this topic. In fact, be it any topic from the family laws. So those are such topics where in an emotional aspect is also included
Yes,
from
yes,
the client side,
that's
of course.
so, Sachi, see, that is how you got to know about the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act.
Yes, yes.
So what happened is with me, it was in September or October 2019. So I'm a
Mm.
huge fan of stand-up comedy. I watch stand-up comedy all across the genres, be it American stand-up comedians or English stand-up comedians,
Mm.
English and Indian stand-up comedians.
Yeah.
So there is this comedian named Dave Chappelle,
Mm-hmm.
whose comedy is based on such observations and taking such offbeat topics only.
Okay.
So I'm going to run the video for a while. Dave, can you pull up that video?
Sure, sure.
And I'll talk about this video after. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is obviously there are a few words that are not that I don't want to repeat. But this idea of abortion, the seed was sowed after watching this stand up. Although this is a 1 hour long stand up show, but this particular clip kept on playing in my mind until March of 2020.
Okay.
And it was then lockdown started, and then it was in April that I decided that I want to take a chance and go through this topic once. So for the month of April, I hadn't decided yet that I really want to write an article. I was just reading, and the arguments that are being put, be it in US or be it in India, any other country for that matter. Then I gave it a serious thought that yes, I want to write an article on this because the laws in India were quite fascinating.
Right.
And then I wrote an article which got published by Legalogy by Ginav Satra. You might also know him.
Yes, yes, yes. He was my batchmate. Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, then again, see, this is a very interesting topic. Reason being because it the law plays the culture plays a part in this type of law.
Of
If
course, of course.
you look at the Indian law, Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act,
Yeah.
it clearly states that it is only in 2 or 3 situations that abortion can be
Right.
allowed.
Right.
That
Right.
is when the health of the mother is in danger,
Danger.
and when
Yeah.
it is evident in the sonography that the fetus isn't going to come out healthy, and the death is inevitable if the delivery also happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is understandable. And then when we look at USA also, it is quite liberal, I would say, where
Correct.
single motherhood is quite promoted. And there are very I haven't been to US, I haven't studied the laws in depth, but there are
Mhm.
a few stats that say there is a lot of a single motherhood in USA. So that is how the laws are very different. So what is your take on the Indian law, that the existing law, that
Yeah.
do
So,
we need to expand it, or this it is what is actually in existence is already quite thorough?
no, I that is my personal opinion that
Yes, yes, definitely.
the laws which we have right now in
Hmm.
our country, the act is named as Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971. So I think we need to amend. The legislature needs to amend certain provisions with respect to this act. Because this act came into existence a few years back, that is 1971, and today we are in 2021. So during these years, things have changed. Our country has moved forward, and looking at the current situation, it's my personal belief that yeah, there are some things or there are some provisions which the legislature needs to change in this act. As this act, I would like to bring up few features about this act. So
Yes,
it is helpful for all the viewers to know what it exactly is. So, yeah, this act allows medical termination of pregnancy in India. However, the provision of section 3 subsection 2 says that a woman is allowed termination of her pregnancy only with respect to certain restrictions. And those are that the first restriction says that the pregnancy termination can be allowed if the gestation period has still not exceeded 12 weeks. So yeah, firstly, gestation period. Not everyone of the listeners would be knowing what the gestation period is. So gestation period is the period of pregnancy which a woman has to go through.
mm,
Those weeks a woman has to go through. So that is called as gestation period. So yeah, a woman is allowed to terminate her fetus or pregnancy if the period has not exceeded 12 weeks. And that also has to be done, only under the supervision of one medical recognized practitioner. That what the law says. And
mm,
yeah, if the gestation period has exceeded 12 weeks and has not exceeded however 20 weeks, uh, two medical practitioners, and if in such situations two medical practitioners are of the view that if the fetus is born, the child would have uh, born with serious handicap,
yes,
or mental or physical abnormalities, and the life of the newborn baby would be really really
a
in
short span.
danger or affected. uh,
Mm,
so yeah, that is the first situation, and the second situation says that if the process of giving birth to that child will put the mother in grave danger and would put her life at stake. So in that situation also, a woman can terminate her pregnancy if the gestation period is between 12 weeks and 20 weeks, but not exceeding 20 weeks.
mm,
So that's what the law says. But however, when I was, going through this moot competition in March 2019, so that was really interesting. I mean, the facts of the those cases were given as such that there was a couple who were in their late 30s, and they came to know, they got this news of they carrying a baby. And yeah, then after their 20th week, that I mean they were in their 22nd week, the woman was in their 22nd week of gestation period. It was a time when she came to know about this fact that the child she is carrying
mm,
uh, you know has a heart malformation, that is a
okay.
congenital heart disease. And
Mm,
because of which, if the child is born, then he might have a very bad effect on his health, on his cardiac health, and his heart would not function as a normal person's heart should actually function. And he might he might have to go through the treatment of placing a permanent pacemaker in your heart
mm.
within every 5 years.
Throughout
Yeah, throughout his
throughout the
life.
life.
Yes, yes, throughout
Oh,
his life. Throughout his life, after every 5 years, that would almost cost the parents around 1.5 to 2 lakhs every 5 years.
oh.
So that was the one of the very interesting fact of that case.
Mm-hmm.
So, and yeah, that might also lead to the mother's life also in danger. So that they However, sadly, obviously, they went to a doctor for going through the process of termination of the pregnancy. And however, the doctors obviously they refused, saying that it is illegal and we cannot get engaged into this thing as it violates the section 3 subsection 2 of the act,
Hmm.
that as you have already crossed the 20-week gestation period,
Right.
so it is illegal and we cannot do that. So then the mother and the father had filed a case in high court, and the high court also dismissed their petition. However, on the other hand, there were some NGOs and who whose work is to taking care of women healthcare, some
Okay.
associations who were into that field. So after this case becoming a little famous at the high court level, and people came to know about this thing, and as the high court has dismissed their petition of medical termination of pregnancy,
Hmm.
even one healthcare organization, a women healthcare association, even that association filed a PIL in Supreme Court with respect to this thing, because they had the in-depth knowledge what a woman has to go through if
Right.
comes to know that the baby she will deliver in few months has to go through such diseases and abnormalities, and he will have to carry it through the rest of his life. So that is obviously the other part, that a woman has to go through a lot of trauma, emotional stress and trauma on
Yes,
knowing
the
that.
problems, I mean, it cannot be numbered during the pregnancy, the problems a woman goes through.
So there was this PIL who was filed in Supreme Court by one of the healthcare association, and on the other hand, during that time, the woman delivered the baby, and fortunately, they both were safe. But on the other part, this matter, because in this case she was lucky that she this did not have an effect on her health and her life. But on the
Yes.
other part, this might not happen in every case with every woman in India.
Huh.
Yeah, so this matter had been taken up in Supreme Court, as uh, this provision also violates Article 14 and Article 21 of the Constitution. As we all know that Constitution is the supreme law and
Yes.
beyond all the acts of our country. When Article 14, which says about right to equality, and Article 21, which says about right to having personal life and liberty.
Yes.
So these two fundamental rights of every citizen were violated if this medical termination of pregnancy act provision, section 2 and section 3 subsection 2 came into picture, of not allowing the woman to terminate her pregnancy beyond 20 weeks of gestation period. Because this is my personal opinion on this thing, that it is a woman's right to take her own decisions with respect to this thing, and this has
Right.
also been held by many courts in their few judgments, and not only on our country basis but also on an international basis, that there
Mm-hmm.
are been many case laws. I remember a case law which was being held up in the American Supreme Court. The case law was named Roe versus Wade, wherein the American Supreme Court said that it is a woman's choice whether to keep her baby or not, and this choice of taking decision of her own life and her baby's life is a branch of constitutional laws. As in India also, we say that Article 21 states about right to have life and personal liberty. So making reproductive choices for a woman is
Hmm.
ultimately a branch of personal liberty and life.
Yes.
dimension to that article.
Yes.
So
Yes,
yeah,
that
yeah,
is, that has been the case. See, laws do exist. In for everything, there is a law.
correct.
To what extent a law should be followed, a law should be implemented, and to what degree it should be, forced onto the public.
Right.
That changes situation wise. Even in this case that you see, this is an extreme case, and this is a highly exceptional case
Yeah,
where the couple is not having child for say in their 30s, and now they are
late
having a
30s.
baby, but then it is carrying a huge problem. So
Yeah,
yeah, in
yeah,
such exceptional cases, the law can take a back seat, and take a, and lean towards the emotional side of a person, that
yeah.
it is understandable that the couple is not having a baby for a very long time, and
Very long.
if they want to continue, they should be allowed to continue.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it is a sole discretion of the mother and the parents mutually, because yeah, on if we see on the medical side, so there are few NGOs and healthcare organizations who actually have their forte in this respect. So they have said that there are certain abnormalities, be it physical or mental or whatever disease,
Hmm.
fetal diseases, those are actually detected after a later stage in the gestation
Right.
period. So it's not
Okay.
possible for a woman to become aware of what disease the child which he is carrying might have. So
Yes, yes. So
those fetus,
it
yeah,
won't be possible in the first 12 weeks, you say, but
yeah,
there
yeah,
are
of course, not
such
even
things
20
appear.
weeks. Yeah.
Oh, not even 20 weeks.
No, no, no. There are some fetal diseases which are actually detected at a very later stage and that have already crossed the gestation period of 20 weeks.
Oh.
So in that case, it is on our legislature that they should, take this thing from a medical point of view too. That it has to be changed because if you are not aware about something, you cannot take a decision of it.
Right.
So this is where they should take it seriously. That if a woman is not aware about the disease
Hmm.
her fetus may carry, and if were born with, then would have faced very grave
Grave
medical situations.
consequences. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously she cannot decide about this if she's not even aware about it.
Right. Right. So
So
Sachi,
in that case,
thanks
there's
for bringing.
yeah.
Yeah, you continue. You were saying.
Yeah, so I was saying, yeah, so in that case, there is also a medical termination of pregnancy amendment bill, which was, produced in the parliament in, I think, in the year 2016, where, it is proposed that the 20 weeks gestation period termination restriction should be increased to 24 weeks.
Okay.
But however, unfortunately, it is still with the parliament and it has not come into force.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so Sachi, thanks for bringing this up. That there are a few NGOs or other some organizations that focus on such topics, which is not spoken out loudly. So,
Yeah.
do you know of any such organization that particularly focus on on such related problems?
No, not as such. When I was actually doing this moot court competition, so I had some research and research thing about this topic on
Hmm.
this topic, but I don't really remember the name of such
Hmm.
NGOs or organizations. But I definitely believe that there are many who are looking into this problem because this topic is such that people are still hesitant to talk about it in public,
Yes, yes, yes. That's true.
especially in a country like India. Still, we belong to a metropolitan city. So
Hmm.
people are still okay with talking to that topic, talking about this.
Yes.
But no, I don't think this is the case in other states and other cities of our country.
Yeah, that's the true. See, we stay in Mumbai, so we believe that whatever happens in Mumbai has a blanket effect on an entirety of the country,
Yeah,
be it cultural wise or finance related wise. But that's not the case.
but
We
that's not the
think
case. No, no.
that's not the case. So even
Yeah.
though, see, we right now we are talking about abortion and such topics, but there might always be a part in the country which must have never heard of this word also, that there is a solution or way out of it.
Yeah. So there are many states and many cities in our country where maybe the literacy level is not that high as our city,
Right.
and so it is important to make them aware about these laws, which
Yes,
has great
that's
impact on anyone's life,
yes.
be it the mother
You
or the
know,
father, anyone.
in the recent times only, see this medical termination of pregnancy act has been constant, in our country.
Yeah.
But what happened a few months ago, Poland changed, amended its abortion laws. Can you pull up that? They faced a
I think this is
very
one of a
heavy.
country who bans abortion.
No, they didn't ban abortion. So what happened is, see, I don't know what their previous laws was, but this is what I read, that they adopted an abortion law which is similar to that of India, where they allow abortion
Okay.
only in the given two circumstances, and
Okay. Yeah.
people did not accept it in a in any manner. They People went out on riots, and
Oh yeah.
they
I had read this.
protested.
Correct. Yeah, the women.
It
I
was
think almost 150,000 women were on the streets of Poland, uh, protesting against it.
yes, heavily protested. Now I haven't read in depth, but that is all I know as of now, that they switched to more of a Indian our Indian laws of abortion.
Hmm.
But yeah, Poland's
Yeah, but
controlling it.
still, there are. I think, as far as I know, there are 6 to 7 countries in the entire
Hmm.
world who completely ban abortion. They don't even allow, if the mother's life is in danger or the fetus might face those disease and malformations. The nothing
Yes,
doing.
yes, yes.
You cannot get into this abortion process.
Cannot,
I
not
think
at all.
Chile and Dominican Republic are two of those countries I know about who completely ban abortion.
Dave, can you open another tab? You'll see Google. Search for abortion laws in UAE. Coil is illegal in UAE except where a woman's life. No. Go back. Is where a woman's life is at risk or the unborn child is with any condition that will. Oh, okay. So here, Dubai, I mean, UAE also follows the similar laws only.
Similar laws, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, similar to India, where abortion is allowed only in two situations. I mean,
Correct.
I
So
am also seeing this for the first time,
okay.
because I know, see, UAE is an Islamic country, so they heavily oppose homosexuality and abortion,
Yeah.
and that was the impression. But even I got to know that abortion is allowed in UAE for only in these two conditions. Huh? New learning today.
Correct. Yeah, this is a thing which even I was not aware of. So thank you for getting it into the picture, and even the viewers come to know about what is exactly happening. But however,
Yes.
I feel like India, still the amendment bill is still into process, but there are a few high courts of different states and the Supreme Court really taking it seriously, because I've
Hmm.
observed that since past 4 to 5 years, there are many cases which have been come up to High Court and Supreme Court, wherein the courts have allowed to terminate in India. I'm talking about India. Okay, so in our country, yeah, the courts have allowed to a mother to terminate her pregnancy beyond
Hmm.
20 weeks. Beyond
Okay.
20 weeks, in case if the child has got some neurological diseases or cardiac
Hmm.
malformations or mental or physical abnormalities, or in any case if there's a grave danger to the mother's life. So, and if as I already mentioned, that these diseases are detected at a later stage of pregnancy.
Hmm.
So yeah, the 20-week period has already passed on, and the woman came to know later on. And yeah, in such cases, many courts have allowed the termination of pregnancy in that manner. So
Right.
right now in our country, although the amendment bill has not come into force, the it is expected that Supreme Court and High Courts uh,
Hmm.
take this matter seriously, and looking as per the situation of women's health, uh, they continue giving such judgments. If
Yes.
ultimately what is important is the woman should be healthy, and the baby should be healthy if were to be born,
Right.
because
See,
no parent can see that the child which they the child who is going to be born is will have to go through such diseases for their entire life. So
entire life, yes.
that is a very emotional phase in anyone's life. So
See,
yeah, I would really like to appreciate the decisions taken by courts in past few years, wherein they have
hmm.
actually allowed the termination beyond
Okay.
20
So,
weeks period.
so do you remember any case laws that we can Google right
Uh,
now?
yeah, of course. Case law X versus Union of India. I think yeah, you can Google that.
Hmm. Yeah, there's one more thing. Since you said X, the amendment bill that is in process. The amendment bill is trying to also maintain the secrecy and identity of the woman who will be taking the abortion. That is what I read.
Oh, that I was not aware. That is a really great
Yes, yes.
thing because
S- Dev, can you pull my share screen? All the case laws that you see above,
hmm,
go a bit up. Wait. See, in all the cases that, when I was writing the article, there were names of the women who were the petitioners, right?
yeah, right.
So far. And Dev, can you scroll down now? No, down. More down. More down. Wait, there. So yeah, here in the amendment of 2020, two major changes in the act which made the act all inclusive are as follows. Under the act, if any pregnancy occurs as a result of failure of any device or method used by the married woman or her husband to limit the children, such unwanted pregnancy may constitute a grave injury to mental health of the pregnant woman. Okay. The bill amends this provision to replace married woman or her husband with woman or her partner. Okay. And see, this is the point I was talking about. Privacy, protection of the privacy. The bill
Correct.
states that no registered medical practitioner will be allowed to reveal the name and other particulars of a woman whose pregnancy has been terminated. Yes.
Yeah,
So since you said that X versus Union of
Union of
India,
India.
I got
In
this.
this
They
case,
can-
the woman, the mother, who had already passed those 20 weeks gestation period, and I think she was in her 22nd or 23rd week, and that's where she came to know about the fetus, which the fetus was detected with
Hmm.
some neurological disorder, and would have a grave injury if the fetus were to be born. In that case, the High Court, I mean the Supreme Court, had allowed the termination of pregnancy. And in fact, there have been many cases since last 4 to 5 years, since 2015, where
Hmm.
court is actually taking up this legislature into concern. I
Yes.
remember one more case law, Suchita Srivastava versus I think it was Union Territory of Chandigarh, wherein courts mentioned that uh, it is a human right, it is a basic right of a woman to procreate. I remember this line very well.
Hmm.
Procreating and abstain from procreating. is a woman's right, and no one can interfere with this.
Oh, okay. So
Because
they said that both are the rights, not only procreation but
not
also
only
not to
procreation.
procreate. Yes.
Yeah, so abstaining from procreating is also the sole right of a mother.
Hmm.
So yeah, courts are taking this up very seriously since few years.
And this is really fascinating to hear that the judges, although the judiciary receives a lot of criticism in
Yeah,
India, such judgments really aren't brought to light, and they reflect the competence of our judges. Say
yeah.
this line that you said, see, it is the right of a woman to procreate. Okay, it could have ended there, but no, the judge was
Yes,
smart
yes.
to even add to this line saying that even not to procreate
Not
is
to
also the
procreate.
right of. This is a really
Yes,
very
correct.
smart
Correct.
sentence.
Yeah, because the second half of the this judgment, this part is really very important.
Hmm.
If we
Right.
take this law and the current situation into picture. Also,
Yes.
this reminds me of a case which was, I think, brought up by a husband in Punjab
Hmm.
High Court. I don't remember the name of the case law, but yeah, the husband had brought up this case in Punjab High Court in the year 2017, wherein he had, filed a case against her, against his own wife and his
Hmm.
in-laws, and stating that his wife, who has undergone this medical termination, was without
Hmm.
his consent,
Okay.
and because of this reason, he filed such a case in Punjab High Court, wherein I
Hmm.
really love the Punjab High Court judgment. They,
Hmm.
wherein the Punjab High Court said that uh, woman is, those are the exact words of the judge, that
Yeah,
woman,
sure, please.
yeah, woman is not a a machine wherein you can insert a raw material and the finished product comes out. Yeah, I remember this line. So woman is not a machine, and procreate, obviously, as I said earlier, procreating
Hmm.
and abstain from procreating is the sole decision of a woman. So keeping that in mind, the Punjab High Court and this matter went to Supreme Court too, because the husband had appealed there too. So
Okay.
obviously the Supreme Court also made a judgment in favor of the
Hmm.
woman, saying that there is no need for any woman to even get a consent from her husband if she wants to terminate her pregnancy.
Okay.
And the court also mentioned that after a marriage, if a woman is and the couple is engaged in marital sexual relations, that does not mean that she is giving her consent to procreate.
Okay.
So that was a very interesting line which the Supreme Court had mentioned that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
so this is, I'm glad you brought this up, because that was going to be, it is like complementary part of the conversation. It's always this that, see, although there is a complete agreement that it is women's right to procreate or not to procreate.
correct.
So when it comes to abortion in any case whatsoever, how much of a value or weightage does the husband's opinion have in such a matter?
Yeah, so according to what I just mentioned about the case law, which was brought up in Punjab High Court and then the Supreme Court, so
Hmm.
yeah, they mentioned this thing in their order that obviously, consent, it is a mutual process of procreation, of course. But however,
Yes.
if the woman wishes not to keep her baby,
Hmm.
because of the already things which we have already discussed,
Stated, yeah.
and so yeah, it is not a compulsion or a law for
Hmm.
a woman
Hmm.
to take the consent of her husband. So
Right.
this has been declared by ordered by
Yeah.
their judgment,
Hmm.
the Supreme
So
Court judgment.
then my next question would be: see, we just like you said, in the circumstances as mentioned in the previous part of the discussion, in such a case, the consent of the husband might not carry a lot of weightage.
Hmm.
So in a normal case, if there is an unwanted pregnancy, okay,
Hmm.
that and then they decide that and then there is a conflict that a husband does not want to have but the woman wants to have. In such a case where even the fetus is not affected with any disease, then how much weightage should the husband's opinion carry, or should it not matter even in a normal circumstances?
So I think in a normal circumstances, so it is solely dependent on both of them, the mother and the father.
Mm.
Because as there is no situation where the fetus might get a disease or any other malformation. So law does not come into picture in that
Hmm.
circumstances. So we can look at such a situation only with the emotional or the family point of view. So
Hmm.
in such a situation, I think it is just a sole discretion of the couple itself whether they want
Okay.
to take ahead this thing or not.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Right.
after all, both play an important part.
Yes, that's
Even if the
definitely.
woman is carrying the baby, that does not mean that the father is not important. Obviously, he is important too.
Yeah, this is a great point that you, and it is a fair point to bring up, that whenever an argument related to abortion is taking place, be it in an official platform or even on an unofficial platform, this what would I say, this slogan is always brought to picture, that my uterus, my choice.
Yeah. I've heard this. Correct.
Yes. So Dev, can you pull my article up for a minute? I guess in this one, Planned Parenthood. Scroll down there. Scroll down. This one, this part. Yeah. Here it is. Another question that arises: whether a man should be obliged to provide financial support to a child that is the partner gives the birth if he would prefer to remain childless. Yes, this is the exact situation that I was talking about. So, see, I know it is going to sound absurd, and it is going to sound rude to some people who are going to listen to this. So, if a woman's slogan is that my uterus, my choice, then why cannot a man's uh, a choice be that my money, my choice?
Correct. Yeah. So I what I believe in this case is that carrying a baby is not only important for the mother; it is for the father as well.
Hmm.
And it is their own mutual decision if they are planning a family ahead. And nowadays not only it is a responsibility of a father to look
Hmm.
after his child financially
Yes.
also, but in fact the mother too. So I think both of them carry an equal weightage or
Hmm.
equal importance in this thing.
Yes, so I guess this is the similar situation that happened. Now the case laws is not mentioned, but we can have a read at it. So after childbirth, the father would generally be responsible for child support payments. So this is a very conservative opinion. There may be taking place in the time where women weren't working, or a lot of women weren't working. So hence this line might be up to
Yeah.
an end. It has promoted supporters of some fathers' rights to condemn what they see as double standard in family planning. Okay, advocates for the rights of father claim that after birth, a man should be able to determine whether he does not wish to be a father. This is called financial abortion, and right would require a woman to notify a prospective father when she is pregnant. Okay, so yeah, even the court ruled this out. There is actually no right to financial abortion or to opt out of paternity. In a well publicized case, a father in Michigan objected to child support payments when his ex partner gave birth after he knew that he didn't want the child. The court rejected this argument that since a woman could avoid motherhood through abortion, the man had the right to disclaim responsibility for a child born against his wishes. So even this argument, if it sounds absurd, or even if it comes that my money, then my support, then the court, I guess, is it's definitely going to rule out, because it's already ruled out once.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So what is your take on this thing? Being uh, a male, I would like to know.
Yeah, see, in this situation, I just like I stated, obviously these were the arguments that were going through my mind. if a woman is saying no uterus, then my uterus, my choice, then why cannot I also say my money, my choice? Then I did a lot of research about these arguments, like like this one that I added in the article. Then again, then I reached the conclusion that yes, in the situations that are exceptional, where the life of the mother is in danger and the child
Correct.
is also in danger, it is definitely a woman's unequivocal right to choose whether she wants to continue or not to continue.
Correct.
And in such a case is not existing, then obviously even I should have the right to
Yeah. Put up
say
your own opinion. Yeah.
yes, put up my own you. So that is a fair, and a balanced argument to say
Yeah.
in such a case. Although I have always believed that wherever emotions get involved, it is really difficult to rationalize that subject.
Correct. Yeah. 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 So,
So always.
basically, what I also believe is in this act which India has, Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act. So, I think the legislature should actually take up this act and interpret it for what purpose it has been, enacted. So I
Hmm.
think they should. We all have studied such a boring subject, interpretation of statutes. So which says that uh, the purposive construction of the act should that why this act has come into picture. Medical, for an example, medical termination of pregnancy. So this has come into our country, enacted here to take up such problems which a woman have to face during her pregnancy. So the interpretation of such act should be done in such a manner which is reasonable and not arbitrary.
Yes, reasonable. Yes, reasonable is a key word here.
Correct. So yeah, in
Yes.
fact, there has been one more thing which just came up in my mind when we were talking
Hmm.
about the paternity thing. That India has a maternity benefit act too.
Okay.
So I think not in India right now, but there are few countries who have some benefits for paternity also,
Mm-hmm.
because they believe that a child, a newborn baby, is not only the responsibility of the mother alone, but the father
Yes.
too.
Yes. I mean,
So
these all the laws, that you rightly said, all these laws were framed at a time when women weren't in the workforce.
correct, yeah,
They
yeah.
were
But
mere,
the
they were
situation now has
housewives.
changed. Correct.
Yes. But the
Yeah,
situation has now changed, and it is definitely going to change in the future also.
definitely.
And the laws will also have to adapt to such situations, that we cannot make a assumption that only a man is working in the family.
Correct, correct. Yeah. So yeah, this is the thing, because the woman should, not be the only one doing each and everything, working,
Hmm.
taking care of the family, the other responsibilities, taking care of the child. It's humanly not possible. However,
Hmm.
the Indian woman managed to do everything, but still, yeah, the legislature should take this also into consideration. That not only maternity benefits, but there should also, be some benefits or like how maternity leaves are granted in every organization. There should be paternity leaves too, where the father also gets to bond up with the newborn baby and
Yes.
take he can take that responsibility, and the responsibility is shared between both.
Yes, that's true.
So hopefully, yeah, even the paternity kind of aspect comes into picture soon.
But are there any laws on such paternity leave related thing? Because Zomato, I guess, in the recent times they made a few. They did a few
Yeah.
changes. Only
Yes,
Zomato
yes,
is
yes.
so
I'm not so
integral.
much aware about the Zomato policies, but yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think a colleague of mine was talking about this. That
Mm-hmm.
there are few policies which they have introduced with respect to this thing. That is really commendable. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if there are few organizations within the country level who are taking care of their employees, not only be
Yes.
a pregnant woman but a father too.
Hmm.
So legislature has to look into this aspect and get relevant laws into picture very
Yes.
soon.
See, even when you talk about, see, even if the laws aren't existent, regarding paternity leave, so even private sectors can take the, initiative like Zomato
Yes,
did.
of course.
That,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it will definitely send a, ripple effect to other organizations also.
Correct. Correct.
That there are, because their competitors are giving paternity leave, they are treating their employees well, then there is always
Yeah.
a demand from the employees also that we also needs a similar benefits.
Correct, correct. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course. Until and unless the legislature take this thing into picture, or a new law or act is enacted. However, this can be actually brought up by those private sector organizations too,
Yes.
which can take this thing into picture on a national level.
Hmm. Yes.
So yeah,
Hmm. Sachi, I this one last thing that I would like to ask.
yeah.
See, you just like you brought up this point that there is I, I cannot recall it exactly, but but to paraphrase it in a way that, see, I guess women have that innate pressure to balance their work life and personal life before a particular age bracket. Is
Hmm.
that true? Is that always been there? What do you think about it?
No, I don't think that it is still a particular age, at a particular age only, because we are in 2021, and especially in a city where we live in, uh, there are almost all the people who are working, be it a male or a female. So
Hmm.
work life, not only for the male but a female, is also equally important, which
Right.
everyone should consider, and the family should be, again, yeah, should be very very supportive
Very
with respect to
supportive.
this
Yeah.
thing, because we are studying, we are taking the bachelor's and the master's degree, and I feel if we are getting that knowledge, it should be definitely implemented, and not only for our personal growth but also for the nation's growth, for our
Yes.
economy.
Right. Yeah,
So
that's
it,
true.
it is a process through our entire life, I suppose, till you work,
Hmm.
and not only till a particular point of time.
Yeah. Yes. So Sachi, now I'll be stopping the recording now.
Yeah,
We have
yeah,
had a great discussion.
yeah.
We, the topics that we wanted to discuss are thoroughly discussed. The next time when you come, maybe we can discuss another few topics.
Another topic.
Then
Yeah,
can
definitely,
you
definitely.